It was a bright morning in the city when Adrian Keller, a self-made millionaire known for his ruthless precision, stepped into his mansion's kitchen after a long business call. Sunlight poured through the tall windows, gilding the marble floors and gleaming countertops. Everything in his world was spotless, organized, and timed to perfection, except for a faint sound behind the counter, a soft scrape of a fork against a plate. Curious, he followed the noise, expecting a staff member preparing breakfast. But when he turned the corner, time seemed to pause. There, crouched near the wall behind the dining table, was his young maid, Isla. Her uniform was wrinkled, her eyes cast downward, and she was eating leftovers from the previous night. She wasn't at the table, didn't use proper cutlery, and her bites were small and hurried, as if afraid someone might see her. Adrian froze. A billionaire who owned everything, watching a woman hide in a corner just to eat food destined for the trash. Something stirred deep within him, a mixture of shock, confusion, and an ache he hadn't felt in years. He quietly stepped back and walked away, his mind spinning. The image of her trembling hands clutching the plate haunted him. Who was she? Why did she have to hide to eat? Later, reviewing the household records, Adrian realized Isla had worked for him for 8 months, always punctual, polite, and seemingly content with her modest salary. He had never asked about her life, her family, or her struggles. She was just part of the background, one of the silent figures that kept his home running. That night, Adrian couldn't sleep. For the first time in years, he thought about hunger, shame, and what it meant to live with so little that one had to hide to eat. The next morning, he arrived in the kitchen early. Isla was tidying the counters, her face pale, her movements cautious, almost fearful. When a spoon slipped from her hand and she flinched like a frightened child, something inside Adrian broke. It wasn't just about food. It was about dignity, about surviving in silence. Quietly, he began observing her. She took the smallest portions, often skipped meals, and sent nearly all her earnings back home to care for her ailing mother and younger brother. She barely kept enough for herself. Adrian went to his usual restaurant that afternoon, but every bite of luxury tasted bitter. Memories of his own early struggles flashed before him, the long nights sleeping on office couches, the instant noodles, the dream of a better life. Somewhere along the way, his success had built walls between who he was and who he had become. The following week, Adrian decided to act, not out of pity, but purpose. He called the staff together and announced that from now on, everyone would dine together in the main hall. No leftovers, no separation, no shame. The room was silent. No one more stunned than Isla, who tried to speak, but he only smiled faintly. No one should have to hide to eat, he said. Days passed, and the mansion felt different. Laughter replaced silence. Even Adrian lingered at the table, listening to the small stories of his staff, stories he had never noticed before. Weeks later, Adrian called Isla into his study. Nervous, she expected a task, or perhaps a reprimand. Instead, he handed her an envelope and documents, a scholarship for her brother, medical support for her mother, and a plan to secure her family's future. Tears welled in her eyes. Adrian said simply, "You've spent your life helping others. Let someone help you this time." From that day forward, everything changed. Isla smiled genuinely at work. Her family's health improved, and Adrian quietly began sponsoring shelters and food programs, rediscovering a belief in humanity. He told his friends, "Wealth isn't ownership. It's what you give without expecting anything back." Months passed. The mansion, once formal and silent, now echoed with shared meals and laughter. Isla often prepared extra plates for local shelters. The image of her hiding in a corner had become a memory that defined Adrian's transformation, a reminder that kindness starts in moments when we choose to see what others ignore. One bright afternoon, Adrian sat at the long dining table with his staff. Sunlight streamed through the windows. For the first time in years, he felt peace, not the peace of luxury, but the peace of knowing he had done something right. Isla served the last dish and joined everyone at the table, no longer in the shadows. As they shared their meal, Adrian realized the truth he had long forgotten. Compassion is the real currency of a meaningful life. If this story touched your heart, remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Every small act of empathy has the power to change a life. And tell us in the comments, what does kindness mean to you?